Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here today with Mikey, who is an art studio owner in Encinitas. Welcome, Mikey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. The work you're doing is so amazing. So I wanted to invite you on so the community can meet you. The people in San Diego can come see your studio. And would you mind sharing a little bit about your story and how you got started, like your career from the beginning to now, kind of how you came to be where you're at?
Sure. So right now I'm sitting at my studio, which is called Mikey Kettinger Art Studio, and it's in the Leucadia neighborhood of Encinitas in North County, San Diego. And it's an art studio that is kind of a multifaceted place where I create my paintings here and I host events, art and music, and I do a lot of teaching here as well.
Mhm.
So it's open for the whole community to come in and do whatever they want to do in the space, whether that's taking classes or just experimenting and working with the materials that I have. People can do remote work here. And then often we'll have different types of events like networking, yoga, music jams. Just people need a place to meet, and it's really created a really awesome community of like-minded people who just kind of connect through the idea of community and art.
Mhm.
And I've been in this location since October of 2023
Mhm.
and had different studio setups over the last couple of decades. But this is definitely the coolest one, and I'm really excited about it. And the reception from the people around has been really positive and warm too. So that's kind of what's encouraged me to continue doing it and to continue growing it. Um, the way that I arrived at this point is when I was about 16 or 17, decided that I wanted to be a professional artist. And I pretty much devoted most of my life to taking that path since then. And that was a little over 20 years ago. So that took me to studying art formally in college, all the way through a master's degree. I became an elementary art teacher. Then I did a lot of work in art museums. I worked also in art galleries, all the while working on my own art practice, selling art and showing in galleries and stuff like that since I was about 19. But always having uh, multiple different things happening within the arts so that I could kind of support myself. And now I've arrived at this amazing culmination of that, which is to have my own studio that I can have a space to work in that's really creative. But the coolest thing is really to have it open to everybody else so that they can come in and have their own artistic journey that I'm able to facilitate as well.
Wow, that's amazing. And like so because art is such a beautiful thing. And so if every artist could do something like this, would be so wonderful. And I like that you said you had like multiple different things you were working on, you weren't just focused on this, you're focusing on different things. And then so it's led to this.
Yeah,
So
thank you. It definitely makes it more special to me that I'm able to share it. And that's something that is kind of requires a unique skill set and personality, I think. But that's something that I do have. I've always been really into leadership and community organizing. So having a studio and a comfort level with serving people and making them feel welcome when they come here is just a very natural thing for me. But that's probably unusual for artists.
yeah,
Um,
that's true. Yeah. To put somebody like make somebody feel comfortable, right? Like most artists are kind of more in their own art world, I call it. But for an artist to be able to feel the community and kind of like help them all feel okay while being themselves at the same time, that does take emotional intelligence. And I think being an elementary school teacher, probably that was a big part of it, maybe even too, you think? Or do you think before that you were even that way?
well, I think that's what made me a good elementary school teacher. But I really think that more of my interest in leadership and community organizing and actually working in the service industry, like doing working in restaurants and stuff like that, has been very helpful for me to be able to kind of do the business side of customer service.
Mhm.
So Um, but the way that teaching was at the schools that I taught at, we did have very much of a kind of customer service approach and an element to it as well. So yeah, there's certainly some crossover with those things. But all the different jobs that I've done, I think have kind of informed what I'm doing now. So that's an interesting thing. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think that a service industry job is going to prepare someone to run an art studio. I wouldn't have thought that if you asked me 20 years ago, but it certainly has been something that's been really helpful. And I've heard other art professionals, like art museum directors, say the same thing, that they look for that in people that they're hiring. Like if they've been able to
Mhm.
do those types of jobs that are kind of blue collar, hardworking jobs where you have to, develop patience and deal with people um, in times of stress,
Mhm.
and how do you solve those problems? Because it's very important to be able to stay calm when something goes wrong. For instance, like if you're running an event and
Mhm.
uh, the lights turn off or it starts raining or whatever, are you going to be able to handle that? And can everybody look to me and feel comfortable that I'm going to be able to solve those problems? Or are they going to look to me and be like, I don't know that this guy knows how to solve this problem. So then everything can come crashing down.
Yes. Calm
So
in the chaos is so important. And you're right. Like service jobs do kind of like when you work at a restaurant, customer service, there's always so much going on and people might be yelling at you. Like I've experienced that. And then you have to kind of like just stay chill and be like, how can I make you happy? Or how can we resolve this? And so it does teach you patience and discipline. But I think as a man is even different because you guys are obviously more like the protector roles, like, right? Like, so it's kind of like a big part of masculine development, I think, right?
yeah, well, that's been an interesting role that I've had here too, because we throw a lot of events, and the tradition of art shows is to have, a lot of the time we'll serve beer and wine, and that's just something that we give as a gift, which can make you nervous because it's, not crazy to think that that might attract people who want to come and uh, get drunk or act unruly. But I've actually never had any problem with that. And I like to think that that's because there's just something about the energy of the place and the presentation of it that when people come in, they see the place and they know they can tell that there's something special about it. And then I hope that the way that I welcome them in gives them enough of a dissuasion of acting in a dumb way,
Mhm.
so that just prevents those problems from happening, and I don't have to be the bouncer, because I kind of am the bouncer if that's going to be necessary if there's any problems with people who don't know how to act. But that's really taken care of itself, I think, just because of the way that the whole place is presented and the attitude that I welcome people with. I hope that that's why that's happening. And
Great.
because sometimes we have events with 100 people here,
Yeah.
and it's never been an issue at all. So it's very cool to me that that's something that's happened. It's just a
Yeah.
testament to the place that it always is attracting good people. So everyone kind of takes care of each other and everything works itself out.
So it's like a community and it's like a safe community so people can bring their kids. And I know you work with a lot of people that have neurodiversity and autism stuff. And because art is so good for people, for every person, really, I think, but especially for people that kind of might have communication challenges, they can create it in their art form, right? And so, yeah, and yeah, I don't personally drink, but I like to hear that like it's a place where alcohol is not creating chaos where it normally does. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What
No,
else would you like to share about your path in terms of like the paintings? Because you make the most amazing paintings. I love all the last year ones. You're doing a lot of different flowers that are so beautiful, different colors, and you use like these metallic colors that are very unique. So could you share a little bit about like that, like the inspiration, what makes you paint the things you do? And because I know also you do community art. I want to talk about that next though, but yeah.
cool. Yeah, well, I got really into painting as a step from drawing. I pretty much was a self-taught drawing artist for my whole life. up until I was about 16 or 17, because painting is such a different skill. I didn't really have access to those materials and to know how to use them. But I developed a lot of strong drawing skills, and I have a natural talent for drawing and, fundamental mark making, which is the root of drawing and painting. So teaching myself how to draw allowed me to then learn how to paint and to have technical skills to be able to kind of replicate what I saw. If I look at a picture, or if I look at a flower or a tree or a person, then I'm able to kind of represent the way that they look through my art skills. Some of that being my natural ability, and then some of it being the skills that I developed from all that practice. And with painting, it's the same thing. So I ended up getting with a lot of great educators who gave me all those skills to be able to replicate what I could see, but then to also be able to represent the things that I was imagining within my head, which is how you're able to then do things that are really unique and creative. So that's where I started to do things like having these arbitrary color combinations with metallic colors and fluorescent colors, and a lot of different imagery to go together in a way that creates interesting narratives and symbolism. And that's something that I really like to do. So I'll have many different images in a painting so that every single person that looks at it might interpret it in a different way. But ultimately, I really hope that when people look at my artwork, that it makes them feel good and that it kind of makes them think about something a little bit more deeply, and that it makes them kind of wonder and to create their own story. And that's where having symbolism and unusual color combinations kind of invites people when they look at it to create their own interpretation.
Oh, very cool. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Well, I love your art. It's beautiful. And every time I've seen your pieces, I'm always loving. I like the recent flower ones, like I said, are my favorite ones. So those are beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then you did that other art project, which you told me about, which was about unity of humanity, kind of like the three religions that people talk the most bad about. And could you share about that project a little bit, please? And how,
Yeah.
yeah.
So a few years ago, I got to go to Utah State University to do a master's degree in which I was studying the intersections of art with science, technology, engineering, and math. So I was doing interactive, socially engaged art projects that had some type of a STEM connection to them. Sometimes that was illustration and demonstration of scientific data, and sometimes it was projects that were directly related to survey data. Like that's the one that you're talking about. It was called Gifts from Atheists, Muslims, and Mormons. I created a kind of a performance art interactive installation in which I had uh, people from those three groups, atheists, Muslims, and Mormons, giving out gifts to people uh, as kind of a proverbial olive branch of showing that these groups are are people just like everybody else, and that they are interested in connecting and doing something that's nice. Those three groups were selected because those three groups were uh, according to a survey, those are the three religious groups in the United States of America that were uh, looked upon with the coldest feelings of all the different religious groups. So being in Utah was kind of an interesting way to connect that, in terms of uh, Mormons being one of the groups that was looked down upon, because that was something for people who were native Utahns that was very surprising to them, because of course that's the predominant religious group in Utah. So it was kind of interesting and very informative, um, but a good way for them to kind of experience, well, how do people perceive Utah from the outside? And at the same time, um, there are all those different groups there too. So it was a really cool way for many different people to come together. And that was a very successful project in that there were discussions actually being had where people were um, learning a lot about those who were different from them and had different beliefs. And they were literally in the same room connecting and attending a party and having fun together. So that's like kind of the coolest thing that can happen through these interactive art projects where, you have a quantitative, literal action that's being taken by people, as opposed to what a painting does, which can have a symbolic meaning and an impact within somebody's heart. But when you literally are bringing people together to have an actual conversation in the same space, then that's one step further. So those type of projects are really special, and those are my favorite types of things to do.
They're so important in a world where everything is creating division right now. It's this against this, right versus left, blah, blah, blah. So anything that brings people together to like, what do we have in common versus what we're different is exactly what we're going to need to basically save us from the whole world coming into chaos. So it is very important. I'm so glad you're inspired. And yeah, like Mormon people kind of get a bad publicity. Everybody kind of judges them. And the Muslim people, there's been this conspiracy theory since what was it, like 9/11, all these lies that the Muslim people did it, but now we all know it was like an inside job. So there's all these like negative energies that try to create division amongst religion because war is such a good business. They make so much money, right? So why would they not do that? But so thank you for doing that. And I also know the other one that you told me about too, which was really cool, which is people can leave a flower or take a flower. Like there was some kind of a stand of like flowers too, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was a more recent one. I actually started that project. That's kind of an ongoing series, and I've done it in many different iterations. I
Mhm.
started that also when I was living in Utah, and it was much more elaborate. So I had a really cool garden there where I grew a bunch of sunflowers from the seed and grew them in my garden, and then cut them down and put them into a vase and installed them into a public space with a little sign that says "Free flowers for someone you care for." And
Mhm.
the idea was I have grown these flowers and cared for them, and then put them out into the community to share them with anybody else. So I want you to take one of these flowers and then give it to someone as a gift. And that's a kind of a powerful gesture of kindness,
Mhm.
and just the act of placing the flowers into a public space and offering it as a totally genuine, sincere gift, just that in itself was really powerful, even for the people who didn't necessarily take the flowers. But I certainly had several people who walked by the same place many, many times and didn't interact with it. And then they thought to themselves later, oh, I know someone that really could use that flower today. So then they came back and grabbed it and then went and gave it to somebody. And that was a really cool story to be told. So that was the first iteration of that project, which has since expanded. I do it in small forms and in big forms. But this summer at the Leucadia Art Walk, we had a really big version of this project
Mhm.
where I had hundreds of flowers that were all installed in this booth at this art show. And instead of me selling art, I was just offering the free flowers as a gift with a little sign on them that kind of described the project. And then the idea was take this flower and then give it to someone as a gift and try to make somebody feel good. So we had hundreds of people walking around giving each other flowers on that day, and it was very beautiful.
I love that. Yeah, and it's like, and then as our world is getting filled with more darkness and chaos, these small gestures and the pay it forward type things can really create ripples in the consciousness of humanity. Imagine if like every artist was doing this, because all the artists are very creative and they do have inspiration usually, right? So if a lot of artists were making these projects all over the world, that could be so beautiful, and that's why art is such a big part of the world that sometimes in schools they kind of try to cut art programs, as you know, right? Like to put more math and science. But if we don't have art, it's almost like our souls can't connect, right? Like it's such a deep part of humanity that art touches. So,
Yeah, I mean, I certainly believe in the value of art. That's what I'm doing. I don't know exactly what's happening with all the different school budgets and all that stuff. But
mm,
um, I'm here to be the one that if someone's either loses art from their school, I'm available to them. But a lot of the time, kids who come to me who sometimes they do have art and they might have a great art program in their school, but if they're really advanced, then that's still probably not going to necessarily be enough for them. So a
mhm.
lot of the kids who come to me They're just so advanced that they want the challenge of working with me and working with a real professional and someone that's already gone through those stages, so that they can still do their art in their school, but then I can push them even further and help them to get really exceptional.
Yeah, in every field, having a mentor makes a huge difference, right? So like it's like having a teacher that just sees your greatness and then can bring it out. That's what you do for people, right? Like I know you even work with people with brain injuries and things like that, right? So you do a lot of different things. But yeah, you I would say your gift is definitely bringing out the true artist in a person. Like you have a way of inspiring that part of a person to kind of come out more and then to teach them the skills to use it, right?
Thank you. Well, yes, and that's a real gift that I appreciate having, and that's one of the coolest things about my life is that I am able to kind of help people to become their own artists. I mean, it's one thing for me to just share my projects and my ideas, and that's always really fun. But empowering other people to become their own artists and to discover these talents within themselves, especially for people who have severe disabilities, physically or mentally. Um, you know, Doing something like learning how to paint is something that makes some of my students that come here feel so amazing, and it's like a real discovery for them, and they become, so much, so inspired by that, and they feel so good, because art, when you get really focused on it, it totally clears your head and it makes you feel very good. And when you feel like you're improving, just like if you're improving with any other skill, like playing an instrument or playing golf or whatever, that's a nice thing to be able to observe within yourself, and that you can grow and that you're creating something.
Mhm.
So it's really cool to be a part of that, definitely.
I love that. I love that. And what do you feel like is the most important message that you have for people at this time, based on like, your experience? Like, what would be something you'd want people to know? Because a lot of people that watch this channel are like people that want to do good for the world, so they're good-hearted humans. But what is like a message that you feel is important to share at this time?
Well, something that I find myself saying to people all the time that I just kind of like to be my slogan is to make art and build community, and just be a part of something that's the affirmative and focus on creating what you want to see, and focus on what you are and what you want to be and what you want to see, as opposed to the negative parts and what you don't want to be. I think it's a cool distinction to make. Excuse me. Sorry, I have a terrible cold.
Oh no, thank you. Yeah, it's okay. I know you've been sick for a while, for like at least a week or two, right? So I'm glad
Yeah,
you're still doing the interview. Yeah, like something going around, It's like I don't know what they're doing, but yeah,
it happens in the winter.
yeah.
But yeah, focusing on the affirmative and building what you want to see. I mean,
Mhm.
um, it takes some courage to take a little bit of a leap, but sometimes you take that gamble and you believe in yourself and you believe in your idea, and then it works. And that's something that's a great thing that I've been able to see with my art studio. I mean, um, it was a very daunting, nerve-wracking thing to kind of uh, put my well-being on the line in terms of taking a big risk
Mhm.
to start my studio and to open it up, to invest in a space that's so big and that's so welcoming to other people. But that was a gamble that I'm really happy that I took, because now it's helping so many different people. Um, so it's completely worth it, and the direction it's going is very beautiful. So I encourage other people to kind of do the same kind of thing.
And it was like a gut feeling or like a idea that came to you. Like, how would people know, I guess, which of their ideas to follow, right? Because especially as creatives, there's so many ideas creatives have often, right? Like it's kind of like, so how would they kind of know which is the idea that they could take a leap of faith on that could possibly turn into something like yours, or people are actually using it and it's become a whole live thing?
Well, I would say that if it just really feels strongly within you and that's going to maintain your focus, then that's the thing that you should focus on. I mean, uh, that's definitely what I have. I'm very obsessive about this place and about being creative. So I never get really tired of working on improving it. I mean, I see the whole art studio experience as an interactive art installation that's basically my artistic masterpiece that is kind of a living artwork. And because I'm such a true artist and so obsessive about my art, then
Hmm.
I'm always able to find energy to work on whatever needs to be done within the studio. So if you have something that you feel that strongly about,
Hmm.
then you're going to be able to stay motivated pretty easily. If you're trying to kind of chase a thing because you think it's going to be something that's going to help you make money
Hmm.
or whatever else it is, then I don't know if it's going to keep you motivated in that same way. But if it's something that you really are sincerely feeling strongly about, that's unique to you, then those are the people that I encourage to do something like what I did.
Of that. So it's like if they can't stop thinking about it, that's their main focus. And it's just like they could never be bored of it almost. Like they could do that and it would feel like natural to them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Joseph Campbell used to say, follow your bliss. That's how you know what's your path, whatever makes you feel blissful. So this is kind of what you're saying. So you could have good or bad days, but you try to focus on the good and then keep kind of allowing it to be created through you, right?
yeah. I mean, and I have a lucky thing in that I really have this true obsession with being creative. So when I'm not actively teaching or doing, normal types of work and administrative work that's within the business of the art studio, then I'm like, oh wow, I can just enjoy the studio by myself and paint
Mhm.
and be creative. So like that's what I would want to be doing even if I had some other totally full-time job that was normal. That's what I would want to be doing when I
Mhm.
wasn't devoting myself to that other job. So
Mhm.
I just kind of made my real passionate thing that I love doing the most
Mhm.
a big focal point of my job. So if you
Mhm.
can combine those things, then it just makes it that much easier to find the energy to work. And then I don't mind all the hours that I work because I'm just doing what I want to be doing anyway. It's just that I'm not having to do it as a side project. I finally got to the point where it could be, my main focus. So um, that requires a lot of devotion and a lot of dedication, but I certainly feel that it's been really worth it because it just feels so good, and seeing the results of that have been so fun and so cool
Mhm.
and beautiful. So, I mean, I definitely encourage people to do that. You don't want to be looking back at your life and wondering what you would have done if you had more courage or if you had actually followed your dreams. I think that's a sad thing. Uh,
Exactly.
so, that's kind of what I would like for people to think about. I mean, the
Mhm.
the time does not ever stop. It keeps going, and the older that you get, the faster time tends to go. And you're in control of your own life, so you have to take that responsibility, and you want to kind of do things that you believe in and that you sincerely feel are worth your time and your energy. And that can be really difficult, and it can be scary, but I think it's worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, a world where everybody is doing what they love would be the perfect world, really. Because so many people go to jobs they don't like or they're not happy. And sorry, there's like a plane passing by as always. But yeah, I love that idea. And I think in Japanese they call it ikigai or something like that. It's like your gift and then how it goes for the need of the community. So yeah, my wish is that everybody finds that part of themselves and then creates their own little project. And that could really bring so much light to our world in such dark times. So,
Yeah.
and if people want to get a hold of you, Mikey, where do they go? Can you tell us your website? I'm going to put it in the bio as well. But yeah.
Great, thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, my website is my name, MikeyKettinger.com, MikeyKettinger.com. And that has a lot of images of my artwork, and it has my full class schedule, um, and a lot of the different things that are going on. with my studio and with my teaching and just with the art that I'm creating. And at my studio, every month we have a free fun event that's an art show. Excuse me. Uh, so every first Saturday of the month from 6 to 9 p.m., there's a bunch of different artists that come here and show their work. And there's art making activities, and it's just a really cool community event where people can come and hang out and make art and look at art and buy some art and hang around other people who are trying to make art and build community. So everybody is welcome to come and join us with that. And it's all ages and it's all different types of people. It's professional artists, it's amateur artists, it's people who just like to be around the studio. Um, it's really a sincere thing that everybody is welcome here. And we really like that kind of diverse range of ages and different types of people that all come and hang out together. And that's part of what makes the studio such a special and unique place, because we have all those different perspectives and people spending time together and just enjoying each other's company.
Yes, I love that. So first Saturday of every month, 6 to 9. They can find the studio address on your website. And so yeah, that would be great. Everybody from San Diego, I would encourage you to go. He's in Encinitas, Leucadia area. For some of the people that know the names. And yeah, you're gonna love it. Thank you again so much for coming on, Mikey. It was such a good interview and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay.